Good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending this morning. Online Menopause Centre's OMC's webinar on menopause in the workplace. I would like to introduce you to this morning's presenter. That is Dr. Leila Kikabusa, who's the founder and clinical director of Online Menopause Centre. Today, we'll cover the important aspect of menopause in the workplace, including kind of symptoms, the impact that these symptoms and conditions related to menopause can have at work, and what you can do as an employer to support your employees. So I will now pass you over to Leila, who will talk you through the presentation.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everyone. I'm Leila Kikabusa. I'm the founder and clinical director of Online Menopause Centre. I've been a GP for over 17 years, and for the last decade, my practice has been concentrated on menopause care. I'm also a board certified specialist in hormonal balancing and anti-aging medicine from the United States. Thank you for making time in your busy schedules to attend this webinar on menopause in the workplace. Just wanted to share with you that when my team and I first thought about delivering this webinar, we never dreamt about the overwhelming response it would have. In the first 10-15 days of announcing the date, we had over 2,000 registrations. I've been working in the field of menopause for many years, and I can confidently say that as recently as a few years ago, I wouldn't have thought about giving this webinar, and I certainly wouldn't have anticipated such tremendous interest in it. Of course, I'm delighted to see this, and it's certainly a reflection of the awareness that has arisen in our society. You may remember 10-15 years ago, we were in a very similar situation with mental health and workplace, and with increasing awareness and campaigns and public education, things have changed in a very positive way. And I feel that we're at the brink of a similar change for menopause. It's very exciting to be involved with this topic, and it's great to see that you have had the foresight to consider learning about this topic and making necessary changes to improve the quality of workplace for your colleagues. Online Menopause Centre launched at the start of last year, but the decision and planning for it had started way before that. And at the time, I was working at a very busy menopause clinic in central London, and amongst thousands of women that I was working with to reach their optimal health and hormonal health, there were CEOs, business owners, and senior members of organizations. And through discussions with them, they would frequently tell me that coming to London, to central London, to get that help was quite inconvenient for them. They had to, get away from their work, and it was quite expensive to attend for tests and for prescriptions and consultations. So when I came to set up my clinic, and I was trying to look for a suitable location, I soon realized that taking it online would offer what they were looking for: the affordability, the convenience, and accessibility of a bespoke and tailor-made treatment for menopausal women. And so we started working on that method of delivering the healthcare. Of course, this was prior to the pandemic, and everyone was a bit more skeptical about an online consultation. But of course, as we've all witnessed, things have changed drastically and now is part of our everyday lives. At OMC, we have successfully treated over 700 patients in the past 18 months. My team has expanded quite rapidly. I'm joined by 4 other senior menopause doctors and a very skillful non-clinical team who help me deliver the service on a daily basis. In May of this year, we had our first compliance inspection by our regulator, Care Quality Commission, and I'm very proud to announce that out of the 5 domains, we achieved outstanding in the domain of well-led. So today I'm going to go over some definitions, go through some common and uncommon symptoms of menopause and how that can impact work. I'll also share with you the results of our menopause research, which we do annually, and this year it was concentrated on menopause and work. I'll also go into a little bit of detail about reasons why employers should be acting now, and what they can do about it, and why now is a good time to act. So definition of menopause, what is menopause? Menopause is a natural physiological process every woman will go through between the ages of 45 and 58. The average age in the UK is 51. And interestingly, 1 in 100 women will reach that under the age of 40, and 1 in 1,000 will reach menopause under the age of 30. So there is a little bit of a variation in the age where women reach menopause. Menopause essentially means cessation of the menstrual cycle. It's diagnosed when a woman has stopped having cycles for 12 months. So it's almost a retrospective diagnosis. And I think most women will agree that this is the positive side of menopause, the end of the menstrual cycles. And what is not so positive is the time around menopause or perimenopause, when women are still experiencing quite regular cycles, but they have started to experience symptoms. And these symptoms can happen in clusters, they can spontaneously resolve, and it can be quite confusing for the woman. They may have multiple consultations with their GP or healthcare professionals, and they may not link it, as their symptoms are so varied, they may not link it with menopause, and therefore they may not get the right treatment for it. There are 13 million women in the UK currently who are in the perimenopause or menopausal age. That's a third of the entire UK female population. The symptoms of menopause and perimenopause are actually quite similar. The difference is that in menopause, because the ovaries have completely stopped functioning, these symptoms remain for a longer period of time. Whereas in perimenopause, a woman can start producing quite varying quantities of hormones. So she can come in and out of the symptoms. And because of the fact that she's still experiencing cycles, it may be quite difficult to reach that diagnosis. On the right-hand side, in the pink box, I have split the symptoms of menopause into physical and psychological. Some of the symptoms, of course, are better known by the public. Those are hot flushes and night sweats, which a majority of people, especially of that age group, can link it with menopause. But perhaps there are some other quite common symptoms that are not considered to be linked with menopause by the general public, and therefore more difficult to link it with that. Those are some of those symptoms are palpitations or rapid heartbeat, which can be quite distressing for the woman. It can wake her up in the middle of the night. Urinary symptoms of urgency and frequency, joint stiffness and ache, which can affect her work depending on what type of work she's doing. Also psychological symptoms like anxiety, low mood, irritability, difficulty learning new tasks, poor focus, concentration and memory, and lack of self-esteem. All of these can really affect a woman's quality of work and how she feels in her workplace. Also sleep, which is a huge deal. Lack of sleep or interrupted sleep can have a big dynamic effect and reduce the quality of life and work of that woman in the following weeks and months. So in this slide, we can see the results of our annual menopause survey, and we surveyed 464 women, and almost half of them said that menopause and perimenopause had affected their work. 11% were severely affected, and only 14% had discussed their symptoms with their employer. We dug a little bit deeper to find out the reasons why they hadn't discussed their symptoms with their employer, and almost a third of them said that they didn't think their employer could help them. Those results are shown in the right-hand side bar chart. Some of the other reasons were that the woman didn't think that their employer would understand about menopause, and a smaller percentage of women felt embarrassed to discuss their symptoms, and they also feared about losing their job or being demoted. Of those people that did discuss their symptoms with their employer, almost half of them, almost half of their employers didn't offer any help, which is quite staggering. Some employers, about 18%, offered some flexible working options, with smaller percentage ensuring that there was some organizational training in place that the woman and other team members could access, and only 5% offered access to a menopause specialist. So there was quite a large number that either they couldn't do anything or they didn't offer the woman any help, although she had discussed her symptoms with them. So why is a menopause a concern of an employer? Why should they even be bothered by this? But there are actually 4 compelling reasons and cases, all backed up by evidence, why employers should be considering menopause at workplace. I'll go through each one in a little bit more detail in next slides, but they come under the headings of legal, business, social responsibility, and demographic. So the first case is that of legal. We know that there is a rising number of legal cases and rise in women taking employers to court, citing events as proof of unfair dismissal and discrimination. We have laws in the UK to protect employees from discrimination at work. The most relevant of this to menopause is the Equality Act 2010, which prohibits discrimination on the grounds of sex and disability. There's been a number of cases. One of the most recent ones at the start of this year was that of Miss Lee Best, who's quoted that her male employer had shouted she must be on her menopause. She won the case. She was awarded 20,000 for harassment and victimization, and the judge drew the conclusion that she was harassed due to her age and sex, and she was victimized. A couple of years ago, in 2019, there was a claim against Bon Marsh, and in that case, the line manager had refused to discuss the claimant's menopause issues or offer any help or support. Again, she won this case and was awarded damages for loss of wages, harassment, and victimization. And again, the judge referred to the Equality Act 2010 for the judgment. Then there's the business case. Women affected by menopause are often at a senior level and more experienced in their team. We can all appreciate in this group that, you know, knowledge costs money. To lose someone of that expertise and experience, it's a huge deal in a business, and it has a negative impact on the team and on business as a whole. Recruitment, of course, is a huge cost. The Office of National Statistics did a survey in 2018, and it showed that 14 million working days were lost in 1 year due to menopausal symptoms. Of course, this figure is not exactly precise, because some women, and we don't know what percentage that is, but some women would take time off work without mentioning to their employer that it's because of menopausal symptoms. So this is a case study. This is my patient, Heather Hancock, who very kindly and bravely shared her experience of menopause and spoke to the journalists about this. Her case was published on Mail Online. She was working for many years at a senior position in a healthcare company as a board member. When her menopause set in, her main symptom was brain fog. And the brain fog was so severe that she initially thought that she was developing early onset dementia. We ran some tests and she had a consultation at OMC, and she was severely deficient in key hormones. She feels a lot better now and is back in employment. So that's a quote from Heather. She said, "I've always relied on my brain to think things through, but I could no longer trust it, and that made me incredibly anxious and fearful." And of course, is the demographic case. We know that women between the ages of 50 and 64 are the fastest growing working demographic in the UK. They're now working for longer. There's about 3.5 million women between the ages of 45 and 54, which is the menopausal age in employment. Cura Kids, who is their provider of childcare, they did a poll of 2,000 women and found that 18% were looking to leave their jobs because of their menopausal symptoms. And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, is the social responsibility, and it's just doing the right thing. We should be supporting women to stay in employment for as long as they wish, and menopause should no longer be a taboo subject at work. Very similar situations physiologically and transitionally in a woman's life is in pregnancy and maternity, which are very positive, ordinary workplace conversations around it, and there's pathways and proper guidelines as to how women should be treated in pregnancy. So hopefully we'll reach that point where menopause is treated in a similar way as in pregnancy. Now, you may ask what employers can do about this? How can they support women at work? There's actually quite a lot they can do, starting from raising awareness amongst their team, colleagues, line managers, providing easy lines of communication and normalizing discussions around menopause. You can also create a formal menopause policy for everyone to refer to, so that they can be signposted with clear pathways as to how to deal with certain situations amongst the menopausal members of the team. Appointing a menopause mentor is another really great idea in a business. Menopause mentors don't have to be super specialists in menopause, but they need to be people within that team and business who are willing to talk to the woman, to educate themselves about basics of menopause so that they can signpost them to the correct information. Also, it helps if they're empathetic and willing to take the time to chat with the woman. So building pathways is another way for easy access to consultations and menopause care and treatment. At Online Menopause Center, we can help women and employers in several different ways. We have a very comprehensive and up-to-date website with great information, blogs, case studies, videos. We run monthly cafes, which have started from the outset of the launch of OMC. These are monthly cafes that are open to all patients, their friends and family, and anybody who likes to listen to it. They're on different aspects of care of menopause. We invite specialists to talk, and women. We've had great feedback from our patients about these cafes. They're recorded and available on our website if you would like to listen to a couple of them. We also help to design surveys and audits to find out what that particular workplace needs in place for their menopausal staff. We offer face-to-face and online training. We're in the middle of completing e-learning modules, which would be available in June of this year. We can also offer consultancy for menopause policy creation. And of course, we provide bespoke and tailor-made treatment after consultations via the clinical staff at OMC. If you have any questions or you'd like to get in touch after this presentation, please get in touch with our Head of Business Development, Kevin Hollick, which you can see the information on this slide. And now we've come to question time. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you, Layla. That was a really great presentation. I'm sure everyone really enjoyed that. We've had a few questions come in from the audience today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pose a couple to you. Firstly, as a small business with only 50 employees, what's the best way to get started and support our female employees?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's quite easy to get started, actually. One of the first things that we can do is to have a menopause mentor, for example, and a pathway for women who wish to discuss their symptoms with that mentor. So training that mentor with basic information, and then allowing them, opening the pathway so that the woman knows that this is the person to refer to initially within the team. Also, having great, easy information accessible to employees. For example, you can use the OMC website. There are many other websites that offer great information. I can email those to you afterwards if you wish. There's also like webinars that we can organize to raise awareness amongst the team members of the organization.
Sorry, Layla, just another question that's come in. I work in a male-dominated environment. How important is it to educate men in menopause?
That's a really good question, and it's really important to involve men in the care and education of menopause. Many, although women go through the menopause, but they work and live with men, and it's really good for them to have access to information and to know. So a webinar or e-learning module that can raise awareness about this transitional time in a female life would definitely be a great starting point. It also helps their relationships at home and at workplace if the man is aware of the extent of symptoms and the severity of symptoms that she can go through. And if of course, if you're aware of these things, then it is the first step in providing support and help to that woman, which then creates a very good environment at work.
That's great, thanks. One final question. How do I secure board level support for initiatives and interventions?
You can use the slides that are in this presentation. We can share these with you, and that can be sort of to highlight to your CEOs or other business owners how important it is to have a policy and how to support women that are going through menopause in that workplace. You can discuss and highlight the business and legal cases that we went through, and the risk associated with doing nothing about it. There's been an increasing number of tribunals, and you can share those. And also, it's important to note that, and to bring it to the attention of your board, that for a team member or for an employee who's been in employment for many years, who's shown loyalty to that company, it would be a shame for it to end in a legal case. And of course, it doesn't reflect greatly on that workplace either.
That's great, Layla. Thanks. I think that's all we've got time for this morning. So thanks for your time. Thank you to everybody for attending this morning. We hope that you found this webinar informative and useful. We were overwhelmed with registrations, with over 2,000 people registering in just 2 weeks. So we do have plans to run follow-up webinars. So please feel free to sign up on our website, onlinemenopausecenter.com, and sign up to our newsletter, and we'll keep you up to date with the next webinar that we're launching. A recording of this obviously is available on our website. Again, if you go to the hub page, we'll be uploading it there. And if you do have any questions relating to how you can get started with menopause in the workplace, what interventions you can make, whether that's kind of surveys, webinars, training, the menopause mentors that Layla's mentioned, then do get in touch with Kevin Hollick. His details are on this presentation, Kevin at onlinemenopausecenter.com. But thanks for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.